You did something very funny yesterday, and I didn't understand what you were on about, so I didn't have time to pick you up on it. But when you sent me a little note about 100% responsibility, it had a typo in it. It said 109% responsible, and I thought that's some strange X Factor maths there. What's she on?
I can understand why I would have said 110%.
Yeah, quite. So could I have done, but it said 109, and I thought, that's something. I've no idea what she's talking about there.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
I'm very well, thank you.
I've got so much news to tell you today, it's not true.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Why don't you start off by telling me about your week?
Well, I'm going to tell you about my week, and I'm going to be quite honest about it, because you helped me enormously yesterday, and I want to share what you said.
Okay.
Because I think it would help other people.
All right.
You were talking to me this morning, literally 5 minutes after my electricity came back on. And that was one of a series of things that have happened this month. And we've had people running around trying to work out if the bill hadn't been paid. I mean, I've paid the bill, but, with my landlord's had. Whether it had been disconnected in error by the power company. It all went off at 9:30 this morning, just as I was boiling my kettle for coffee and about to have a shower.
Yeah.
And
in the crucial half an hour of every day, isn't it? Coffee and a shower before the podcast. I'd be quite stressed if that happened.
I was trying not to be. There's no point in getting stressed.
Indeed.
It does turn out 2 hours later, a very expensive electrician, €50, but he did come in half an hour and he was ready to put all the power back on again. And he tracked it down to my kettle. It was my kettle that had fused the entire house, and it had fused the box down the road where it joins onto the electricity supply. So it was quite a big deal. Now I've got to pay another €50 for a new kettle, apparently.
Right.
It was the last in a series of really awful things that have happened this month. I'm not going to dwell on them because I don't want to attract more of it. But there was things like the bank closed my account because my accountant hadn't put my accounts in, and I was temporarily struck off the limited company register. There's been a big family row that was preying on my mind rather badly. I was feeling lonely being in Stupor, even though I'm surrounded by, nice friends. I was sort of feeling a bit lonely. And I really got to a very, very low point yesterday. And as you know, I reached out to you and you advised me. We had a good old robust talking to, didn't we?
Could I stop you there? You didn't reach out to me.
Sorry?
You didn't reach out to me. I spotted you saying something which frightened me a bit. And I reached out to you and said, do you want to have a chat? Because actually you don't like sharing your vulnerability and your tears quite often, do you?
No, I don't. So I think I might have been psychologically reaching out to you without reaching out to you.
Oh, subliminal reaching out. I shall look out for that in future, Nicola.
Yes, I think you picked up on it very well, Judith. But you very kindly came back to me and we had a good old practical, down-to-earth, robust talking about everything. And you reminded me very strongly the thing is I knew I needed to turn my way of thinking around, because I knew if I wallowed any longer than a day, I would start attracting more stuff. And I think, the electricity going off was a final test.
Yeah.
But what you said to me was lots of great things. But one of the things you said to me was to listen to some Abraham Hicks stuff.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I think my computer had been listening to me, because when I went to turn it on, I was presented with Russell Brand talking about what to do when you're feeling sad. So obviously my computer has been listening and thinking, she needs a bit of Russell Brand. But
yes, yeah. we know our computers listen to us now.
Yeah,
don't
that's
we?
Right. Yeah, and I find it quite reassuring, actually.
Yeah,
at least someone is. So then I listened to some Abraham Hicks, and I was struggling a little bit initially because a lot of it was just pictures set to audio.
Yes.
And then I found that a lot of what I was listening to wasn't actually Abraham Hicks. It was someone else doing an Abraham Hicks thing. Sounds like you've been trained by her.
Right.
But I did finally find some, and I haven't actually listened to any proper Abraham Hicks yet, but the general gist of it was, one of the things I heard was that you're like a hose, a garden hose. Basically, when you're hosing things down, you can get a bit of mud up your hose, but it doesn't take much water to flush it out again. But if you keep the water running, which is actually the good stuff coming out of you, then there's no room for any dirt to get up your hose in the first place.
Yeah, I like that. Even though it has the potential to be quite rude, I still like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I listened to a load more, and I woke up this morning, and in spite of the fact the electricity promptly went off, I've actually felt really fine today. I feel really positive. I feel really up. Everyone was marvelling at how well I was coping with the loss of electricity on my busiest day of the week. So it really does work. And
I know. And the extraordinary thing is, you don't know how it works, and it doesn't matter how it works. It raises your vibration. And the funny thing is, I listened to one yesterday, which I recommended to you, and I'm not sure you got to the end of that one because it had the pictures. But when the electric goes off, she teaches us what we have to say is, I'm just going to trust the universe. It'll come back on in time before I speak to Judith at 12 noon, and that the universe has got your back, which is something we debate in the cash flow games, actually, because I teach them to work out what you want and throw the dice accordingly. And Yvonne Halling, who we both know, says, I just throw the dice because I know the universe has got my back. There's a trust that even when all the evidence appears to the contrary, you're still all right.
I mean, the interesting thing was that you still have to take the action. I had to ring Elias, so you had to ring.
Yes. Yes.
Yanni had to come and it cost me €50. But the point is, trying to get an electrician in the UK for that quickly would.
Yes. No, that wouldn't have worked. And also, there's a limiting belief, isn't there? And she made a lovely point last night that I was listening to. She said, when you first start to do this, you're inclined to call it magic.
Yeah.
Like you magically, fixed your electric this morning, and you're saying, I'm not sure I could have done that in England. But she says that the longer you go on managing your vibration, you realize it isn't magic. It's just how it is if you can stay in the vortex.
Yeah, I haven't got to the vortex bit yet. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's vibe, really. If you can stay in a good place, electricians will, quote unquote, magically appear. But it isn't magic at all. It's the way it is. And our job is to stay in the place more often, whereas in fact we all dwell outside that place.
Yeah, I think the thing, I have been taking 100% responsibility for all things that have gone wrong, which is why I didn't get mad with anyone about anything. But the family row thing was upsetting me a lot, as you know.
Yes.
And listening to Abraham Hicks reminded me that I've got absolutely no control over how anyone else feels.
No. And you know what, Nicola, you always knew that because we've had this conversation millions of times. None of us have.
I know, but you need reminding about.
Yes, you do. That's why we've got to. A mutual colleague of ours has emailed me this morning to say, thank you for reminding me of Wayne Dyer, blah, blah, blah. We've got to take this medicine every single day, even if it's only like 10 minutes while you're making the coffee.
Yes, because that would be like inoculating yourself against anything that might happen during the day. You'd say, oh, okay, well, I haven't got any control over how they feel or what they say, so I'll just carry along my own merry way.
Or it's all right anyway. Yes, people can have bad feelings and it's still all right anyway.
Yeah, very good. So even, as you said, it's not about religion or anything. It's about spirituality. But more than that, it's about being sensible and realising the things that we forget every day.
Yeah, I think when you get into it more, you'll really love Esther's sense of humour, or Abraham's sense of humour as it manifests through Esther. It's really very funny.
Yeah, I need to go.
And even laughing raises your vibration, you see.
Yes, it does. I told Phoebe she had a second interview last week, and I said to her, stand up and do some fake laughing before you make the phone call. And she said, what? I said, no, really, if you make yourself laugh to the point where you genuinely laugh,
yes,
then you'll be on a much better vibe for this call. And make sure you stand up, because it makes you sound much more energetic.
Yes. Well, when you live by yourself, which you do and I do, and in the sense that you were talking to Phoebe, she does, you don't laugh out loud very much. Laughter is something we do in company and in society. But I do tune into things often, like the news quiz every Friday, that makes me laugh out loud because I know how good that is for me.
Yeah. Yes, very good. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it.
Marvellous. And, you were quite a hard sell for Abraham Hicks because you're not quite as woo-woo as the rest of us. Have you finished your week?
Well, I have pretty much, yes.
Yes, okay, because Abraham Hicks is one of my 4 things I was going to tell you about, because I don't want to take credit for this, because it started in I Love My Life, where Marion's a big fan of Abraham Hicks, and she tells me, as I told you yesterday, that a decade or more ago, I did what we used to do in those days, which was copied all the CDs and mailed them to her in Ireland, and she used to listen to them on a long drive to and from work that she had in those days, and she credits it always with turning her life around. And whenever she gets low, she goes back to Abraham Hicks. So she started this ball rolling again, and then Hina, another woman who I coach who's in the same group, she picked up on it. And then I said to Marion, send me some links to ones you really like when you're listening to a corker, send me a link. She didn't, so I went looking and started. And then yesterday I infected you like a bug, and infected another client like a bug. It spreads like Topsy, and the other lady I infected with Abraham Hicks yesterday, I said, how are you with woo woo? She said, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I sent her a link, and she said, oh yes, I know what you're talking about, I like stuff like this, thank you. So, and one thing I was going to say to you later, I'll say it to you later, no, I'll say it now because it's in this connection. I was going to say it to you in Word of the Week. When I sent it to you yesterday, I apologized that, because I know you don't like God or anything to do with God or anything called God. And I apologized, and I said, I don't think it's God. I think that she uses the word source or something like that all the way through. And, I don't want people, I'm not a churchgoer or a God bother or anything, but I don't want people to be, I realise I apologise for God too much. I don't want people to be offended by use of the word God from the core message, if that makes sense.
Yeah, don't be distracted from the core message.
Yes, exactly. Don't let that down. If you can't, if you have a little moment when you hear the word God in any of this spiritual material, then you've got to reconcile that. You've got to turn away from it or whatever. But anyway, I'm pleased.
I think I'm all right because I've watched enough Russell Brand now, who talks about source and
yes,
universal flow and everything.
Yes, and
so to be able to cope with it and take it in the spirit in which it's meant.
Yes, perfect. Okay, good. So moving swiftly along. Yes, I was going to tell you about Abraham Hicks, but that's it. We've done it. I tell you, I think I love her humour. That's what raises my vibration. And I've been recommending it to clients all week. So you just happened to phone me in the I'm recommending Abraham Hicks this week, and I think it is look, if it's changed your vibe in less than 24 hours, that's marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's happened completely unconsciously.
Yes, although that's even better. I think it does. I think it does happen unconsciously. Therefore, if we were taking 10 minutes of that every day, just imagine what it would do to our unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyway, so this week has been the supermoon, and I've seen it 3 nights running in clear skies over Blighty. And the supermoon can often, or a bit of full moon, can often result in sleeplessness. It did only happen on the middle night. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I saw the supermoon. No, today's Thursday, isn't it? I saw it early this morning in the pre-dawn, which was my best viewing of it. It was beautiful. And I did lose sleep on Tuesday night. And of course, classically, the sleepless night was the one before I had to start work at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I just sort of dragged myself downstairs in my gym jams to do that one yesterday morning. I've had a nice client creation week, pay what you want and the potential new. And interestingly, after what I said to you last week, I don't know if you remember, I said to you last week, when I was an accountant, I had lots of stand-up comedians. Do you remember me saying that? Well, yesterday she was an actress and a stand-up comedian. Given that I'm a business coach, that's a strange person to come to me, but I turned her around and sent her some links to Abraham Hicks. Actually, she's no different from any other client, really, which is that she'd had quite a lot of success in her life. She'd gone to a fabulous drama school. And you don't get picked by the best ones unless you're talented. She'd had an award in something that she'd created, and she'd also got some famous person to agree to appear in a piece of work that she'd done. But she was just focusing on, and you were yesterday when I found you, and we all do this, what's happened and how I got in this mess. And you've got to let that go straight away. The one thing that Abraham Hicks says is forget it. All you human beings, and we love you, are all focused on the stuff that didn't work, the stuff that went wrong, fossicking about in how unfair and unreasonable it is. Forget it. Just get yourself into the good vibe now and off we go.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was nice. But last night, this was really good fun. Last night, I made a new friend on Facebook, a complete stranger. We discovered one another because she's in one of my, Caribbean island groups where she posted this beautiful aerial photograph of my island, and I asked her, did you take that one? She said yes. I said, can I share it with my Facebook friends? She said yes. And then she started PMing me. She lives in Chigwell in Essex, which is where Dorian from Birds of a Feather lives, if you know. But her parents are Dutch, which the island is half Dutch, and South African, and they one of them's dead. Her dad's dead. I'm not quite sure whether he was the Dutch one or the South African one, but the island is half Dutch. But she started to tell me, which was really interesting, is what she does. Her parents only had daughters, and her dad had started a coach business. Now, by that I mean not coaching, but coaches, i.e., long vehicles with eyebrows and wheels that drive people and stuff around Europe. And she took over his business. She was the only one of his daughters interested in his coaching business, which is UK based. And every week or month, she and a team, because you have to do it in shifts, drive coaches from Dover to Europe going on the ferry. So she just got back from somewhere in Spain called, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce this, Blanes is how I think you say it, Blanes. And that actually seems to be her place, not St. Martin. But we spent a lot of time chatting and bonding last night. I say a lot, but you can PM quite a lot of information to one another. And she runs this coaching business, coaches, and she sent me some photographs of sort of a coach that she'd converted for her family's use into like an RV, but also I said, it looks like a rock and roll tour bus, and she drives her family about in that for holidays and things. And amazing, as often as I'm down about Facebook, it brought a lovely, beautiful photograph of my island and a complete stranger into my life last night with whom I have a lot in common.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, a woman, I didn't say this to her, but a woman driving coaches is heroic.
Yeah, it is, because they're big.
Yeah, so they are big.
Did you say coaches with eyebrows earlier?
Well, they have eyebrows. Coaches have those, they have those rear view mirrors that come out of the front of a coach. They look like eyebrows to me. They look like a sort of caterpillar with eyebrows. Don't you see it? Do you see it?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then when I went on her somewhere, actually her Facebook profile has lots of pictures of coaches on it, and they're very beautiful. They've got, I forget what you call it when there's a word to describe how they're painted. I forget what that's called now, but they're livery. They're all in different liveries and branded and all sorts of different things. And it took 24 hours to drive back from this place in Spain. And she and two of her male colleagues, I think she implied, took 3 8-hour shifts each. I mean, impressive.
Driving
and fascinating, actually. I don't know a female coach driver. I'm sure there are millions of them, but I don't know one, and now I do. And she's a good photographer, and it all started with a connection over something we have in common.
Yeah, marvellous.
Lovely.
Synchronicity.
Yeah. Now, go on and tell me about what's fueled your fire.
Well, the thing that's fueled my fire this week is obviously I was searching for ways to turn my head around, and I was thinking a lot about this 100% responsibility thing, which actually I think is very freeing, because it stops you getting mad with anyone. Because if you accept that you're 100% responsible for everything that happens, you can't get mad with anyone because it's you.
Yes.
So it really does stop you blaming, and I'm a bit of a victim blamer by nature until I got to the age of 38 and realised what I was doing. And the thing about it is, all the time you're a victim blamer, you're not in power, are you? You're not at your most powerful.
No.
But the minute you take 100% responsibility for everything, you start to become incredibly powerful, because you're the one who has made things happen for good or for ill, and you're the one who can change things and make things better.
Yes.
So this week I've been looking, and it helps me when I'm working with clients as well, because they have to take 100% responsibility for their business. And although I can do more than, I can do more than just the stuff that they give me to do, and I do more, I think, strategically for my clients, rather than just doing what they tell me to do, because most clients don't know what they need to tell me to do.
Yes.
But it's about, you've got to pass it on, haven't you? And I mean, I'm certainly trying to teach Phoebe and Nelson. Nelson seems to get on with it anyway, but Phoebe needs to remember, I think. And it's just such a empowering thing to do for anyone, is to talk about it and say, okay, so how if you had solely manifested this and you were solely responsible for it and you've got the power to change it, what would you do? And so I've been thinking quite a lot of my life this week based on that thing, and it's fueled by fire, because when you're 100% responsible, you're the one that can change things. Mm. So that's what's got me going.
You did something very funny yesterday, and I didn't understand what you were on about, so I didn't have time to pick you up on it. But when you sent me a little note about 100% responsibility, it had a typo in it. It said 109% responsible, and I thought that's some strange X Factor maths there. What's she on?
Well, I can understand why I would have said 110%.
Yeah, quite. So could I have done, but it said 109, and I thought, that's something I've no idea what she's talking about there.
That must be the dreaded A word creeping in.
Yes, absolutely right. Can't really see. Make the print bigger.
Yes, exactly. What about you then?
Well, I was going to tell you in here, and I still will in a minute, about some nice cheering responses to last Friday's newsletter. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you about 2 new connections I've made in our Own It the Podcast Facebook group with new listeners. One is a lady called Amy Cran, who lives in Canada. She said, I'm listening to your 200th episode right now, and I wanted to send a note to say that I guarantee you two more than 25 people who called in are listening. I believe the rule I've heard before is for every person that reaches out to a company they represent, 25 people who are silent but feel the same way. 25 people are silent but feel the same way. I love you two, and I'm still working to catch up on all the episodes. I binge listen every workday to the point where my scalp feels tight at the end of the day. I find you two addicting. Thank you for all you do. Well, I did the sum. 25 people times 25 people is 625 people, which is about right, isn't it, for our weekly download number? Yeah. So Amy, you're right there on your stats. And then Rosemary, who I know, chipped in as well. And then another new person, Kerin Vaughan from Australia. She says, yes, I agree with Amy. I've only recently found you two, and I love you guys. I totally agree with Rosemary that there are always so many nuggets. I particularly love how raw the show is, and I obviously missed the phone-in bit. Being from Australia, I'm not sure how that works. Anyway, I reckon you've got stacks of loyal followers who just enjoy you as an extension of their day. Keep sharing with us. And that really fueled my fire to keep going with the podcast. What's really nice as well is that I wondered whether this was the beginning of your hockey stick, because people are crawling out of the woodwork and waving at us now and saying, hello, we're just catching up with your 200 episodes. We like it.
I don't think crawling out the woodwork is a really good picture for me, because I'm always worried about things doing that here.
Yeah, oh, yes, so you are. I beg your pardon, yes.
and I've had rather a good run of nothing doing it.
Yes, lovely, well done. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you about 2 responses to last Friday's newsletter as well. And the first one is on point. I love this, Judith. I do feel so much better now, as that article raised my vibration. And in fact, you do that a lot for me when I catch your posts on Facebook. Now, that's entirely on point, which is if we want better results, we've got to have a better vibration. So I was chuffed about that. But the next one is really good. A chap I know, but I've only spoken to once on a free call. He's about my age. We've kept in touch on social media since that call. And I really appreciate him because he's recently found love in his life. But he volunteers in places like those camps in Calais with the refugees and in soup kitchens in London. He's a really good man. But he said, this is a brilliant, succinct newsletter this week, just what I needed on a Friday morning. Thank you for the reminder of why I continue with my self-employment, because the alternative is too awful to contemplate. Now, this is the good bit. I'm looking at running my own event this year, and I would attribute the self-belief that I have acquired to do that, at least in part, to your constant encouragement over the past few years. And the only way he's got that constant encouragement is by reading the newsletter and occasionally connecting with me on social media.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So a bit like the 2 ladies from Canada and Australia, the impact of the work we do goes further than we know.
Well, it's like me with my writing, and I'm binge listening the Story Grid podcast now, and I mean, they must think that this strange madwoman's just popped out of nowhere, because I'm tweeting all the time now.
Yes.
And listening to it, and they must think, oh my God, she's getting through it. This is like 3 years worth of podcasts they've done week by week by week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm galloping through it literally at the rate of at least 10 to 20 a week. So
yes.
I've become a super fan, stroke Stalker.
Yeah, I've seen your stalking that you do of them on Twitter, and I've ignored it. Now, and I just wanted to say one more point about the two new listeners that we've met. I love the fact that they're in Canada and Australia. I love that we have a global reach. Not to say we don't love you Brits. We do. We love you and we know you. But it's lovely. I don't really know very many Australians. I don't really know very many Canadians, and I like that this works. I know we have English in common, but I like that this works in other places in the world as well.
Yeah, I was just trying to look for you to see where we're.
Yes.
But Libsyn are trying to charge for that information now, which is a bit annoying.
Okay.
Whereas we know, for example, on Right Club, that we've got people listening in Botswana of all places.
Yes.
And it's a real shame, actually, that I can't tell you where.
So, what do you use for? What platform do you use for Right Clubs?
Audio Boom, but we're thinking of moving over to our own website and Libsyn.
Okay.
But it's just, I think it's a bit mean not to show, to make people try and pay more just to see it. Geographical statistics.
Yes, we used to get it, didn't we? Because you told me before where people are. Yeah. And actually, I had a book sale. You get those notifications from Kindle about your money that's coming into your bank account later. I had a book sale in Japan this week, and I rather liked that too. Yeah.
If anyone is listening and they haven't given us a review, the one thing that would make a massive difference is to get a good review on your podcast platform. So I'll do a little beg for this, because we're up to 96,196.
Oh, close.
I know, close. 400,000.
Yeah.
Apparently, reviews are the things that make the biggest difference in getting you shown in higher in the old charts. And
can you give me that number again in full? 96 what?
96,196.
Oh, lovely.
That's lots of 9s and 6s, isn't it? With just a 1 in the middle.
Yeah, nice. Oh, me, I'm a mathmatician. I love numbers. That's a lovely number.
And another 3,900, 3,800, 3,800 something.
3,000 and something, yeah.
So, reviews are the things that bring new listeners to us.
Yes.
And keep us going.
That's
sure.
Marvellous.
Who was a gentleman? Was it a gentleman who said we're raw?
No, that was one of the two ladies.
Yeah, I wonder if he means production values or whether he means.
Yeah, no, I think she means, I think she means amateur, but it's a very nice way of saying it, isn't it?
I do believe that she means raw with our emotions, that we're not holding anything back and we're not being too.
Maybe. Just let me have a look here and find out where the raw bit is. I love it. Yes, Kerrin Vaughan. Do come and clarify what you mean by raw, because Nicola would like to know. So one of Rosemary said, I like to listen to you while I'm putting my makeup on. And I said, the great thing about radio is that neither of us is wearing makeup.
No, God, makeup. I was talking about the other day. I can't be asked. I did do it day in, day out. Judith will confirm.
I know. When I first knew you, you never went anywhere without it. I know that, Nicola.
No, not anymore. Can't be bothered. Right, focus of the week then.
Okay, so morning, Linda. Evening, Linda. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's definitely dark here in New Zealand.
Yes, you know how I always love to say to you, and how was Friday?
Yes, well, we've come to the end of a busy week here, so looking forward to my weekend. And, it's still summer, of course, but we've got a cyclone forecast, so that's bad luck.
It's I can't ever get over the wonder of not only just being able to talk to you, but you being, in a different time zone, a different weather zone. I mean, it's a miracle of nature. But let's not bang on, because we're time aware today. Tell the listener, if you would, take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself to the listener, including how they can find out about you. And then we'll crack on with your talk, which is about communicating with clients. I think I'm right.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I'm Linda Cassells. I'm a publisher, and I'm originally from the UK, but I'm now firmly ensconced in this beautiful country of New Zealand, and I've been here since the mid-'80s. So that's a long time. I learned the ropes of the publishing business in-house. So I kind of worked my way up from a lowly assistant editor to managing a mass market list for Hodders, as it was then. And I had a formative 8 years as the New Zealand publisher for Oxford University Press here in New Zealand. So then in 2003, I set up my own publishing business, Calico Publishing, and that's calicopublishing.co.nz. I wanted a name that conveyed boutique, bespoke, not corporate. And it's actually my name. It's CA for Cassells, LI for Linda, and CO for company. And I think I was into crosswords at the time. But the business has really morphed and changed quite a lot over the years. I started out packaging books for multinationals and offering editorial services. And then I gradually started publishing a few titles under my own imprint. And these are mostly health-related books. I became active, and I still am really active in managing rights for New Zealand authors internationally. But more recently, the part of the business that's really growing the most is my mentoring work. It's the one-on-one work that I do with authors, and I'm really loving this sort of work. I love to get in at the beginning of a project and help shape the ideas. I think if you're putting a posh name on it, you could call it developmental editing. So you can imagine over the time that I've been in business in New Zealand since the mid-'80s, I've seen huge changes in the publishing world in those 30 plus years. And a lot of your listeners will be aware of them too. But as the focus of our topic today is communication, I really am looking at how that has changed within the publishing world. And it used to be very formal and kind of slow, and I think that reflected how business was done back then. There was a lot of gatekeeping went on in the publishing world, and it was an authoritarian kind of model, if you like. The publishers had the final say on things. That's where the power was. And of course now it's completely changed. It's all informal and it's fast. And for me, that has a lot to do with the whole democratization of business. And of course, that's all driven by technology. And that's a really good thing, I think, because it opens more opportunities for more people. But there are some pitfalls, especially in communication. And it really is a question of getting the balance right. And you know how it is. We kind of feel we know someone really well in this digitally connected world. We can feel really close to them, even though we've never, ever met them. We wouldn't know them if we passed them on the street. So I wanted to do something on communicating with clients, because I believe some of the things I've observed in my communication within the publishing world could be really useful to anyone running their own business, or even if you're in a workplace, you're in a structured organization. There's some things in here that I think might be helpful. And so I came up with 4 aspects of communication that I thought would be a useful framework for the podcast. And they are, the first one is knowing your communication style. The second is setting boundaries. The third is dealing with difficulties. And the fourth is taking initiative. And just moving swiftly on to the first one, knowing your communication style. One of the key questions here for me is being aware of how much you are prepared to share personally with your client base. And I found that the clients love to know a little bit about your personal life. They love to know where I've been on holidays, or what you're up to. But you've got to be comfortable yourself about what you choose to share from your personal life. And then you've got to figure out how friendly you're going to be in your tone. And that's shifted hugely over the years in publishing. The tone's much, much friendlier. But I've come unstuck a few times, to be honest, with cultural differences. I've been dealing with publishers, for example, in Germany and China. And honestly, if you don't follow a certain pattern with an email and certain formalities, they just won't take you seriously. With your communication style, I've actually found using humor is quite a useful way to put people at ease. And I don't mean poking fun at people all the time, but self-deprecating humor, a little way of sharing some of the errors you might have made, a little bit of your own vulnerability. It makes you come across as more human. I'd say be honest in your communication, and don't pose yourself as the grand authority in whatever area you're working in, because none of us know all the answers. And so you can suggest to clients A, B, C, and D, and then just say, look, hey, this may or may not work, but we're both in this together. And one of the things about a communication style that I learned from Judith is that you've got to look at how you like to be communicated with. And so if you can find a style that you like to read or listen to or watch, and you like that, then emulate that style yourself. So it's all about figuring out your own personal style. There's no one size fits all. Setting boundaries around communication. Now, there are loads of pitfalls around this with clients, and I think it's really important to set boundaries with clients. This is to do with the amount of time, for example, that you're going to give a client. I think it's very important to state clearly beforehand what the boundaries of your relationship are at the very, very outset. Accessibility. I know many people I work with are very good at responding to emails within 5 minutes of receiving them. I'm not one of those people, I have to say. I often find if I respond very quickly to something that I'm getting into this email pattern that is maybe not that constructive. So I'm definitely one of those people that tries to check them at the beginning and the end of the day, and maybe in the middle of the day as well. And I really guard my weekends. But again, you've got to figure out what works for you. Setting boundaries is also about keeping to the point in your communication. So it's all very well to share personal details, but don't forget the crux of your relationship is a professional one. So just keep to the point. And the other thing that I've noted down here is short emails. You might think, what has that got to do with setting boundaries? And actually for you, it's a really important way of setting limitations on your time and your focus. So, there's got to be a balance there of friendliness and professionalism, if you like. Dealing with difficulties was number 3 on my list. And again, this is a potential minefield. What are they? Your client doesn't turn up on time, or they cancel on you at the last moment, or they change, what the agreed arrangement is, or they're not paying on time. I mean, there's an endless list of possibilities there. But what I've done under this is I've come up with some really general principles for dealing with difficulties. They're not context specific. And I'd be really interested to hear what others think about these. And the first one that I put down was keep any anger in check. There's no place for it. So, you might actually feel really cross with your client for letting you down in some way. But your communication always has to be respectful. And you can go and express that anger somewhere else, but not, to your client. You've got to really guard that respectful relationship. If you're trying to negotiate your way around a problem, keep focused on the issue, on the problem. So again, if someone cancels on you at the last moment, it might pay to actually show a little bit of empathy towards them. You can let it go. You just never know what's been going on in their lives, and you certainly don't want to be adding anything to their stress. One other technique is to give some control back to them. So if you're in this knotty situation with a client, ask them, so look, here we are, this is the situation. What do you suggest we do to move this forward? And just see where that takes them, and you. Now, often these difficulties are dealt with by email, and that can be really useful, especially if you think you're getting into contractual things. It's good to have a record sometimes. But there is a place for just picking up the phone and talking to people. And I think that can very quickly resolve issues before they become huge, huge problems. I had a case just this afternoon. I have an agent in Asia, and I'd sent, I was the complaining client, I'd sent an email saying, we haven't been paid yet for the contract that was signed before Christmas. And I would say within minutes of that email being received, the Skype call came through from him, and we had a fantastic discussion. I got an insight into exactly what the situation was. And I ended up with huge respect for this person that I'm working with. So respectful, that is actually one of my key bottom lines with communication. Are we going for time? All right. Number 4, and this was about taking initiative with your communication. And look, a lot of this is very obvious. Setting up a newsletter or podcast, as you do in this case. I think for me here, the key with the communication is the regularity of it, because you're building a relationship with your client base here, and they want to hear from you. I know this as a recipient of the podcast. I know on Friday nights that I want to tune in, and I think there's that building that anticipation of a newsletter coming in at a particular time is really important. Taking initiative also means keeping a focus on your client's needs. So I have found, for example, that trying to get in before they're going to ask you something is a really good thing. So progress reports to clients. For example, with my published authors whose books keep backlisting, we often slot in 10, 15-minute phone calls, maybe once a month, and we talk about promotional ideas. And you might think there's nothing more we can do with these books. But I tell you, after every single conversation, we each have something on our list that we can follow through and generate new ideas from. With the mentoring clients that I work with, they check in with me by Skype every 4 to 6 weeks after I've read their latest drafts. But we keep in touch. Well, I encourage them to keep in touch once a week. So Fridays, I just want to check in. Hi, Linda. Oh, it's been a really lousy week and this has gone on. Or, I've had a fantastic week. Just a little report. It just keeps the conversations going. Sometimes I'll even suggest a coffee, and I know that's not for everyone, but just, you never know what comes out of a chat over a coffee. Don't rely on emails all the time. Pick up the phone. I think sometimes it's very easy to hide behind emails. There you go. Those were my 4 main areas of communicating with clients that I wanted to share. So
very, very nice, Linda. I'm just going to make 2 comments, and then I'm going to throw it over to Nicola, who doesn't know you as well as I do. I really like the story of the man who Skyped from Asia, and he was in the position of being the chap who needed to sort the problem out and show you some respect, and that was nice. And you won't be surprised to hear, because life is so woo-woo, that Nicola and I were talking about the regularity of the podcast while we were waiting for you to arrive.
Oh, isn't that funny?
Yeah. Nicola, what did you think of Linda's wisdom? She's a wise old stick, isn't she?
I liked him a lot. I am someone who does find communication quite difficult generally. So I like the be respectful and be proactive and try and get before your client has to ask.
Yes.
And just I'm off to look at your publishing company, because obviously I'm writing a sci-fi novel, and I'm very interested in this whole thing of editors and developmental editors and mentoring authors.
I mean, it's such a big need. Well, here in New Zealand, we don't have the same number of multinationals that we used to, and there's an awful lot of very good self-publishing that gets done. Of course, in-house these days, editors don't have time to do mental hand-holding stuff. And I'm really in my element dealing with it. I'm just loving it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's again, synchronicity, isn't it? That I'm following the Story Grid podcast, which is Sean Coyne, and then you pop up as an independent publisher down in New Zealand. How awesome is that?
Mm. Oh, there we go. Yes. Well, I do work. I don't publish fiction, but I do work with fiction and non-fiction editors, because it's all about telling stories. Whether it's fiction or non-fiction, you still got to have that beginning, middle, and end, and you've got to carry the reader through on some sort of journey. It doesn't matter if you're talking about dementia or you're in some fantasy novel genre. It's you've got to hold the reader's attention.
I've started writing all my emails using that structure as well. The inciting instant, the complication, move from ordinary world to extraordinary world, complication 1, complication 2, crisis to climax and resolution.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, this work that I've been doing has got me so focused on structure. I went to see a movie the other night and I came away. It was called Green Book. I don't know if either of you have seen that.
Oh, I love it. Did you love it?
Just incredible. And I came away and I was analysing, how the two characters shifted and what were the themes that, where the turning point was. It's a really well put together movie. I thought the whole development thing it's a story well told, as they say.
And do you think both of you think being able to see that shape adds or detracts from watching a movie, say?
Absolutely adds for me. Sorry, I didn't mean to get in before you there, Nicola.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, there are conventions, aren't there, Linda? But the best writers twist the conventions. So although you're expecting a crisis and a climax and a resolution, if they do it in a really different, unusual, clever way, then it just adds to your enjoyment because you appreciate it more.
Mm.
Yeah. I think that is it's given me another. Yeah, this close work on text has certainly I'm translating it into everything I watch, actually. So I was interested to hear that affects your email writing. So, everything.
Yeah, and my little videos, I'm trying to do my 1-minute videos over 7 days. So I'm telling a story over the 7 days now. So
yeah. Oh, well, that's really interesting. Well, I think there's an awful lot in that structure, and even my newsletters, that they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think a lot of your readers would probably follow the same pattern. I mean, for me, it's a little bit of news about what I've been doing, and then there's the tips and strategies bit, and then there's the call to action.
Yeah, ordinary world, extraordinary world, crisis resolution. We love it.
There you go.
I thought that was a really interesting point you made when you got to talking about newsletters and podcasts, not just the regularity, which is something I appreciate very much, but the point you made was anticipation. So have the audience waiting for it to come. Lovely.
Yeah. And I know that as someone who's producing a newsletter, and also I'm hanging in there waiting for the newsletters,
Yes.
I know when they're going to come in, and it's a very binding way of communicating with your client.
I tell you what I think that shows us, and it goes to your whole talk actually, is we like to know where we are as a human being.
Yeah, that's right. It's like punctuation marks in our routines, isn't it? It's very important. And I think all the more so for people, the growing numbers of people that are working entrepreneurially.
Yes, and perhaps quite comforting in a very distressing at times world.
Yeah, that's right. It's and you've got control over that too.
Yes.
Who you invite in and who you decide not to have in there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, Linda, you've been marvellous as I expected, but you've brought a certain exotica from at 9 o'clock at night from New Zealand.
I might be ready for my hot chocolate in bed now.
Yes.
But just one last thing. If people want to sign up for my newsletter, I'd encourage them to head over to the website and do it. It's something I love putting together. I love this way of connecting with people, and dare I say it, it's a great way of communicating.
Yes, well done to you. And lovely plug there.
Yeah, thank you.
Not at all. Lovely. Thank you for being here and contributing.
Okay.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So, word of the week then.
Yeah, mine, you won't be surprised to hear, is vibration because of the Esther Hicks focus.
Yes, I wrote down exactly the same thing.
Yes, say more.
So, well, I wrote down vibration too.
Well, let's both have it this week because actually it proves the value of it, doesn't it?
It does. And I really so not woo woo, not anything like that, but I really do have the whole quantum physics thing has made me deeply believe in this law of attraction thing.
Yeah,
it just makes sense. If you can affect an atom. So they proved that you can affect atoms, negative and positive, for up to I can't remember what it is, 1,000 kilometers away.
Yes,
they can scientifically prove that now.
Yes,
so it makes sense, doesn't it? It just makes sense that.
Also, that's all Abraham ever talks about, the law of attraction. Actually, they never use the law of attraction; they call it law of attraction. There's no "the" in front of it in their world, but that's the only thing they're teaching us.
Well, that's true.
And since you're sold on that already, that makes it an easier sell for me to get you to listen to more of it.
Okay. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel,
I know.
Worrying and
I know, it does. And it's very fast, Nicola.
Yeah. Well,
I'm wandering along the landing upstairs. I've only been doing it. I'm only about a day or two ahead of you in this. I'm wandering along the landing upstairs thinking, I feel great. You can do all sorts of things when you feel great that normally are just too difficult to do.
Yes. Well, for one thing, I have to get in front of the camera every single week for 7
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're feeling
I know. I
think you can see it in my eyes.
And you know what? You and I can't fake it.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not good at faking. We're not actresses. Well, sometimes you have to be professional. That's different, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're not feeling it, when I don't feel like writing on a Monday, I don't write on a Monday.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Right, give me your PUs, as I call them.
Updates, right? Yeah. I am nearly at the 20,000 mark on my book. I'm staring down the barrel of the middle build, as it's called. Right. I have a few key scenes mapped out. I'm overlaying. I've dramatically reduced the age of my heroine so that she can have a bit of love interest.
Okay.
Which is going to be great fun writing.
How old was she before, and how old is she now?
Well, she's a young woman in her early 30s in the book, but when I was sending her back in time and putting her into an old lady's body.
Oh, okay.
But then, to be a midwife and a healer.
Right.
But then I thought, oh, hang on, there's a rather handsome warrior over there. I might turn her into just a filthy midwife and healer who obviously would go and have a nice bath and spruce up a bit, and then have a bit of fun with old Adonis over there.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm looking forward to writing that bit now because I'm overlaying the love story theme under the action thriller theme, and the love story theme is something that has required scenes which I think I could reach back into the dim mists of my memory and remember how it all went.
Yeah.
and funnily enough, it talked about the power of attraction.
Oh.
I was just thinking about all this the other day and thinking it was going to be ever so easy to picture a young man of the village who does stir one's ancient loins, rather. And he popped up in front of my car the other day.
Yes, be careful what you wish for. That's what Abraham would say, you see.
Yes, there he was with his dogs as a weapon. And you know that expression, dogs as weapons? It's when young men feel the need to have big, scary dogs.
Oh.
And Heather calls them dogs as weapons, but actually Adonis's looked rather nice. I'm going to call him Adonis so that nobody knows his real name.
Well, let me tell you about dogs. Or have you finished? Sorry, were you just drawing breath there?
No, I was just having a little breath and a reminisce about how handsome the young man was.
The Facebook has made me fall in love with dogs, and I've never wanted dogs, although I was brought up with two lovely dogs, Bessie and Boo. But I kind of want a dog now.
Oh, good grief, really?
As well as cats. When I settle again, when I buy my new home, I kind of want a dog.
Oh, I definitely want a dog. I've always been a dog person.
I love cats too, but, I love animals. But the enjoyment that everybody on Facebook gets from their dog, well, and the sadness too when they die, but the enjoyment they get from their dogs and from each other's dogs. I mean, I'm in love with so many of my clients' dogs. It's not true. Kimber and Badger, I love them. They're so lovely. They're like extensions of my clients in a funny sort of a way.
There was a fabulous video the other day that went around, which was a toddler and a swarm of golden retriever puppies.
Yes.
Oh, it was so cute.
I know. That was the one that Marion couldn't stop watching.
Oh, there's a beautiful dog out here looking for a home as well. She's like a golden retriever, but she's a Greek mountain dog.
Well, you know when they'd call it, this dog has found their new forever home. Oh, yeah. My heart just aches too. Yeah. You just can't rescue enough, can you?
No, you can't, and there's always more behind them.
I know.
Out here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, where are we then?
Right, so we're on project updates, and I'm going to tell you about mine. Unless you haven't finished telling us about your £20,000 middle build.
I'm definitely gearing up to write the middle bit, and there will be some spicy. Well, we've just done a section on erotic writing.
Yes,
so
yes.
I interviewed a lady called Bambi Lynn, and she writes medieval spicy novels that are set in Viking times and also gladiator times, and she says you can get away with a lot more if you write history because you don't have to be so politically correct.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then the other thing she does is she writes erotic novels set in a sort of medieval spiritual time, and I just thought how much fun it might be to write a spicy love scene, not too spicy though.
Okay, the touch of the bonk buster creeps in. I said £20,000 there. I didn't mean that. I meant 20,000 words, didn't I?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I did write on Monday. I wrote twice on Monday. I wrote, the project here is to up website traffic by blogging on Mondays about matters of a woo-woo nature. Yeah. And I wrote about Tosha Silver and her abundance prayer. And Tosha Silver is about God. And it had amazing stats, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but it led to a sign-up. In fact, sign-ups and likes to my Facebook pages have been accelerating recently. And this is all I ever do, blog, Facebook notes, Facebook generally, and Friday's newsletter, and this podcast, of course. And it seems to go in phases. And it occurs to me as I'm saying this, that if I stay in the vortex, that those numbers are just going to go up. I also wrote a second piece on the same day too about the Oscars and who I want to win. But I'll tell you this, nobody is interested in anything I talk about or write about the Oscars. And actually, I don't care because I'm interested in both of those. They raise my vibration. They are my passion. And for me, writing and sharing is about communications. I went to check my stats on that this morning. It's not quite true that it's nobody. But compared to Tosha Silver talking about God and Abraham Hicks that I haven't written about yet, where I told you to look out for God being called sauce so it didn't offend you. The God thing, let me tell you, the Tosha Silver's abundance prayer piece, it had quite a small reach, 243 people, but of course I don't pay. So that's about a sixth of my potential audience on my Facebook page. But it had 41 engagements and 18 reaction. 41 clicks. So 41 people clicked it to read the rest of the post, which is quite a large number. I mean, if I look at the other 5 posts this week, 3, 5, 2, 8, and then 41 on Tosha Silver's abundance prayer, and 18 reactions, comments, and shares. A little dialogue broke out from Tosha's particular fans. But again, 18 compares to 1, 6, 8, and 1. So, and that's technically about God, which surprised me, actually.
People are looking for ways to make themselves feel better.
Yes.
And to be connected to something bigger than you. The thing I worry about it, with the God thing, is that it seems to me like you're absolving yourself of responsibility. You're looking for something outside yourself. You're giving away not you, but if one believes in something outside oneself, then one is giving away one's power and feeling a little bit like it's not down to you, it's down to something you've got no control over.
Well, I'll tell you this, the Brits we don't really do this, but in my financial reality, where I'm on 2 forums and I go on them every day, and I listen to at least an hour, sometimes up to 3 hours of intel, in financial intelligence information. Mike Maloney creeps in there sometimes, but only at the bottom levels. All of my favourite gurus there, and this isn't the reason why all of my favourite sources of intel have either pastors on the call with them, or the calls begin, they're all American, the calls begin with and end with prayers, and they believe that their blessing will come from God. Now, there's no requirement for everybody to buy in at that high level, or but we may be different as a nation about this, or other nations are different, is what I'm saying.
Are the other nations more Catholic, do you think?
No, one of my 4 gurus is Catholic, but he's from South America, where, of course, you know, the I don't know what you'd call it, the Roman world, the Latin world, the Spanish world, typically that would be Catholicism. But I don't think, let me just think of my other ones, my North American ones. No, I don't think they are Catholic, actually.
I've been listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
And I started listening to him. It was the top 10 maddest Dave Ramsey calls, because he takes call-ins about money.
Yep.
And he talks a lot about, he's obviously, very religious, and he talks a lot about your pastor, or talk to your pastor about things.
Yes.
And it seems like, that kind of church going is very practical. They get coaching around relationships, they get coaching around finances. They're supposed to be, real partnerships when they get married. So he's very keen on, joint finances and things like that, whereas I'd be very keen on separate finances.
Yes.
But it is very interesting, isn't it? And I don't know why I like him so much, because he does talk about God a lot. But
well, you can if you can separate it, that's great. And the interesting thing is that it's very much part of the 12-step program, isn't it? Which sorted Russell Brand out. Now, you don't have to go for God, but you have to go for something outside of yourself, don't you?
Yeah. You have to realise that you haven't done very well
on your own. Yes. Yeah. I think actually, I mean, obviously, as people interested in words, another, well, probably not a topic for the podcast, but faith is what this is about. And actually, Esther encourages that, not religious faith, but faith that source has got your back, that you're in something that's bigger than you, and that it's supportive.
Yes, even if that's a sea of soup and atoms and star.
Quite. I mean, it can be, and that's the brilliant thing in this day and age, is that it can be our unique choice what that is.
Yes.
Now, I have a second project, which we haven't really got time to discuss today, but I'm going to put it in here so that I remember to discuss it with you in future weeks. I put the first of my buy-to-let properties on the market this week to sell it. And to clarify what I mean by that, I instructed the first valuation, which will happen tomorrow, and I've connected with a solicitor recommended to me by a professional property investor. And given how appalling my luck was, well documented on this podcast in 2016 and 17 with this sort of activity, let's follow along and see how this goes. There's already one interesting point, and we definitely haven't got time for that today, so I might save it for the next few weeks and months as this story unfolds.
Is it one of your London ones or one of the...
No, the London one you would never sell, because it makes gazillions of money. I'm selling one of the 3 seaside ones, and funnily enough, you've been in it and I haven't. And the man asked me yesterday how many bedrooms. I went, I'm sorry, I've no idea, I've never been in it. And then he asked me which floor it was on. I said, I'm sorry, no idea, never been in it. But he'll find out both of those points tomorrow when he visits it. But the reason I'm selling those 3 is they are so expensive in the service charges that they suck up any profits. They just don't make a profit, so they've got to go. They've got to go. And I've hung on and I've hung on and I've hung on and I've hung on, and I can't hang on anymore. So first one up on the market now, and we'll see how that goes. It could, if it goes well, there could be a little cascade of the 3. And if it doesn't go well, which is that one point it hinges on, we'll see. But do you remember one of the ladies we're interviewing tomorrow, Karen, asked us about side hustles and things. So I thought this might be interesting to document the process of a sale of a buy-to-let, which lots of my clients have done, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Now, tell me who or what has inspired you. I've got a corker in here, but you go first.
MasterChef is back. I absolutely blooming love it. And there was 2 stars on the first week of MasterChef. I was a bit confused yesterday. I thought I had one to look forward to on Tuesday night, which was the Monday night's one, because I have to watch them the night after. And it turned out there weren't any MasterChefs until...
No, as I told you, it's the football. Last week, I think you'll find the schedule is probably always going to be Wednesday, Thursday and Friday in the UK, so a day later for you. But last week it was Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, because there was football on Wednesday, I think you'll find.
really makes me mad that...
Oh, don't moan about football, because you get very unpopular if you do that. If I moan about football on Facebook, people write in and go, "What are all that dancing shit you watch?"
Yes, but then we've got blooming Casualty, albeit, Saturday night shunted off onto somewhere.
Well, you can shunt Casualty wherever you like. I couldn't give a stuff about that. But tell me about your stars from last week.
The first, there were 2 stars from that first week. Annabelle, who is young and dewy-eyed and has taught herself to cook entirely from YouTube videos.
She has the eyelashes and the hair ribbon.
Yeah, she's a sweet young...
Yes, she is. She is.
I could not believe that she's taught herself fine dine cuisine kind of cooking. And the second lady is lovely. Her name's Eleni, and she is part Greek and she's an ex-banker. And she infuses Greek flavours.
Yes, she does.
All her food.
Yes.
And it made me realise how everyone talks about Greek food as if it's, just souvlaki and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with a good souvlaki, obviously, but there is so much more to Greek cuisine than that. And the final thing that's impressed the hell out of me is last year's winner, Kenny Tutt, came back to sit and eat some of their food.
Yes.
And he's literally this week opening a new restaurant in Worthing.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to go, and he's also doing a pop-up charity dinner at Lancing College, which is a beautiful venue. And if I was home in time, I'd definitely be going to that. But I'll have to take Phoebe along to his new place. What's it called? It's called... no, I can't remember what it's called. But I will be coming, Kenny, I will.
I tell you what I liked about the Greek lady. She used lots of Greek ingredients, one of which I had to Google because it was called something like macrodaphne, something like that. Do you remember that?
That's my best friend's... That's my friend Linda. That's her favourite wine.
Well, let me tell you why I was interested in it, because you might have forgotten this, but my mother's name was Daphne. Which is a Greek word.
Oh, yes, it is, yes.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And actually, she had farmer parents who called their children Doris, not a word of a lie, Peter,
Good God.
Patricia, John, another boring name, and their 6th and final child, my mother, for some bizarre reason, they called Daphne.
Well, it's a lovely name.
It is a nice name if you make the Greek connection. And I had to Google it because one of the products had my mother's name on it. I thought that was really quite interesting.
Daphne. Yeah, it's like sherry. So we're all...
You've lost me now. I don't really like sherry.
No, but that's what it tasted like to me when I tried it. She doesn't like dry wine; she likes sweet wine. We've seen away impressive amounts of it, I can tell you.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Great, that's good. What about you?
Now I'm going to tell you what's impressed and inspired me, and this is, if anything, my favourite part of this week. This is going to be a very long episode because we've done 45 minutes and we haven't even put the guest in yet. I found my model for the paid newsletter.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, wait, because this is very exciting. A chap that we talk about often, you know who I mean, I never mention his name, it wrote to me this week, apropos of nothing at all, and said, I think you might like this, because he'd found a newsletter he wanted to sign up for and was shocked on sign up to be invited to pay for it at $50 a year or $5 a month. Now, you didn't have to pay for it. You could pay for it. And it's offered at 2 levels. A paid subscriber gets every single newsletter and access to the archive. Freebie seekers only get the newsletter she distributes as free, i.e. some of them, not all of them. So the paid level is for real fans and completists. And this means, obviously, that at the paid level, every newsletter needs to be an absolute corker. And I wrote here originally, it's relevant once your newsletter goes beyond marketing, as mine almost has already. But actually, I think it's different from that. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Her name is Katerina Fake, and my correspondent said, yes, that really is her real name. And her website is called Katerina, CATERINA.net. Now, she's quite a high achiever. She describes herself as an entrepreneur, an investor at Yes VC, which will be venture capital, a writer, an artist, and a reader. She's a homeschooling mother, a thinker. She co-founded Flickr, and lots of other things I've never heard of, Hunch, Sesat School, Carvila Silly, whatever that is, and she sits on at least 3 boards. Now, her newsletter, it's handled by something called Substack.com. And when I went halfway through her sign-up process just to see how it worked, i.e. I didn't sign up to the paid level, it emailed me to say, thank you for adding your email to the list for the free updates from Katerina.net, the newsletter. And if this wasn't you, click here to unsubscribe. Then she says, Katerina.net, the newsletter, is funded by direct subscriptions from readers like you. And if you'd like the full experience, please consider becoming a paying subscriber. And there's a subscribe now button. And it says what you'll get: every issue, not just the occasional free one, and access to all issues in the archives. Now, that's a lovely, simple model. You write for the paid people, and they get every newsletter, and they get access to the archive, and the freebie seekers get occasional ones you're happy to go out for free. Now, this for me would avoid Patreon. But I said, right, I'm off now to have a look at Substack, and I've realized, of course, that the free ones can still have marketing in them, the paid ones not. It uses Stripe, and there's loads of writers there using the model. This is really exciting. I mean, it's free. Substack is free to use until you start charging. So, and at which point they take 10% of the $50. And I wonder, I haven't checked this out yet. The one question I wonder if you can do it and pay what you want.
Yeah, interesting.
Is it?
It sounds quite complicated to me.
No, it isn't. It's two levels, free or paid.
Yeah, I understand that. It doesn't sound complicated from the customer's point of view. It sounds complicated to put together from the creator's point of view, but I'm sure you'd be able to do it.
Oh, I don't think so. I think Friday's newsletter that has marketing in is the free, and then you create paid content for people who love reading your writing on top.
Which means that you could go back through your archives and find
right. Absolutely. Yes.
I do like it. I like it as a model. In fact, funnily enough, you just reminded me that I put my new book on to pay what you want, because Stripe does pay what you want.
In that case, if Stripe does pay what you want, it should be able to do this on pay what you want.
No, correct. I Thrivecart, which I use with Stripe, does pay what you want.
Okay. But I will ask them, and they might introduce it. That's the point.
Yeah.
But this is really abundant. You talked earlier on about Libsyn not letting us have access to certain information anymore. The other side of that coin, the abundant side of that coin, is try it yourself. Publishing is free. When you start charging for subscriptions, we'll take 10% after transactions fees. So you don't pay until you charge people. So I could actually encourage people to come, all my existing readers, to come over here from MailChimp. It would still be free to me, and then I can introduce a paid level when I'm ready to do that.
I like it a lot.
I know.
Yes, I do like it a lot.
Anyway, that's us. We're done.
We are.
We're meeting tomorrow morning, aren't we?
Yes. Thank you very much for your help.
Not at all. See you soon, lovely. Okay, bye. How do they do it? Not a care and suffering. Wanna step into their world.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitpodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.